So in the previous video, we had a look at R1, and in this video, we're going to be having a look at covering P1 and P2. Let's begin by looking at an F1 type of example. So we've got to find the mean of the following numbers that we've got here. And remember, using the key information table, step 1 was add up all of the numbers, and step 2 was divide by how many numbers there were. In this case, we divided by 4, and the reason why is because there was 4 numbers here, and that means we got a mean of 4. Let's compare this to a P1 type of example. So as you can see here, for the P1 example, we are finding the data set, and already I can see that that's very different to what I've done before, as I was used to finding the mean. So I've got 4 numbers here, and I've got my step 1 and my step 2 already written out. So as you can see, numbers have to give me a mean of 4, and I've got something divided by 4 has to give me 4. If I compare with F1, the dividing 4 actually came from the 4 gaps that we had in the question. So if I want to find that number, the only way I can find it is by multiplying by 4. So 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. Once I've done that, then I can find step 1. And if I use my F1 fluency, I can see that I need to add up all the numbers, and it has to give me 16. So the number that I got is the number that it has to total to give. So any 4 numbers that total to give me 16. So the numbers I'm going to choose, the first one I want to choose is 5, 8, 2, and 1. I can also choose a different set of numbers. I can choose 1, 2, 6, and 7. I can also choose a different set of numbers. I could choose 10, 0, 3, and 3. Now, what we can notice here is that we can get many solutions that total to give me 16. There's a lot of solutions that will give me 16. So the answer that I might get, you might not get. So we might get different answers. But as long as it adds up to give you 16, then that is absolutely fine. So let's now condense this to just a few rules. So we're going to write down what we've noticed rather than having every time a F1 and a P1 side by side. So to find the data set, step 1 is to draw your gaps. As you can see here, we drew 4 gaps for 4 numbers. Step 2 is to multiply the mean by the number of gaps. In our question here, the mean is 4 and the number of gaps was 4. That means we had to do 4 times 4, which gave us 16. Step 3 is to find numbers that add to give this total. So the total here we were looking for specifically was 16. So that means we found numbers that gave us a total of 16. Remember, you can get more than one answer, so there's quite a lot of solutions that you can get, but it has to total to give you 16. I can generate information to create a data set for a given mean. Here's a key information table that we should be familiar with from the previous slide. Step 1, draw your gaps. Step 2, multiply the mean by the number of gaps. Step 3, find the numbers that add to make that total. So pause the video here so you can take a note of this and refer to it whenever we're doing questions of this type. Write 2 numbers that give a mean of 5. So we want 2 numbers that give a mean of 5. So step 1, draw 2 gaps. So we're going to draw 2 gaps below. Step 2, multiply the mean by the number of gaps. So the mean here is 5, and the number of gaps that we drew is 2 because we had 2 numbers. So 5 times 2 is equal to 10. And this means that I want 2 numbers that total to give me 10. Step 3, find 2 numbers that total to give 10. So I've got 2 and 8, but could I have chosen any other numbers for the data set, and why? So I could have chosen 7 and 3, for example, because I have a lot of numbers that total to give 10. So as long as they add up to give 10, that is absolutely fine. Here's a task for you. Write 4 other possible numbers that also could have been chosen. Here's a we do question for you to try. Write 3 numbers that give a mean of 6. So you'll notice here there are steps here to guide you. So there is a lot of support put in place. Pause the video here and have a go. Here's the solutions. Make sure that you self-assess your work. So as you can see, step 1, I drew 3 gaps. So I've drawn 3 gaps below. Step 2, I did 6 times 3. Remember the mean was 6 and I had 3 numbers or 3 gaps. So 6 times 3 is going to give me 18. Step 3 is I'm going to find numbers that total to give me 18. And I've chosen 3 numbers, 6, 7 and 5. Remember, you could have chosen 3 different numbers as long as they total to give you 18. Here's another question for you to try. This time you will notice that there is no steps written down and there is no support to guide you. So use the previous work that you've done to support you. As an extension, you've got 3 different type of questions to also stretch and challenge yourself as well. Pause the video here. Here's solutions. Make sure that you self-assess your work. So here you wanted 4 numbers with a mean of 3. So you need to get 4 numbers. Make sure that they total to give you 12. Any numbers would be fine as long as they add to give you 12. 5 different numbers with a mean of 8. Remember, different means that the numbers cannot repeat. They can't be the same. And the total should be 40. So any 5 different numbers that gives you 40 would have been fine. Let's go back to the second question. 5 different solutions with a mean of 8. What that means is I've got a possible solution here. That just means write down 5 different type of solutions that also give you a mean of 8. Let's go back again. For this question, I was looking for answers that include decimals, so 5 different solutions including decimals. That's the end of P1 and we are now ready to move on to P2. So here's a P1 type of question and let's have a look together. We can see here that we have 4 numbers and they must have a mean of 4. So we drew our gaps. Then we multiplied the mean by the number of gaps. So we did 4 times 4, which is 16. Then we found numbers that make a total of 16. We noticed that we can get many solutions that give us a total of 16. Let's compare this with a P2 type of question. So we are asked to find a data set. We are given 3 numbers and we can see that 1 number is missing. We have 4 numbers and we want to find a mean of 4. So the first thing we do is 4 times 4, which is 16. Then I need numbers that total to give me 16 as I had in my steps in P1. You will notice that this question here is a little bit different than the P1 question, as for this question we didn't have any numbers given to us. However, in P2 we have been given 3 numbers already. So we write these 3 numbers down below. We know that 4 plus 6 plus 2 plus something must give us a total of 16. So if I add all of these numbers together, I'm going to get a total of 12. So 12 plus something has to give us 16. Therefore, that number has to be 4. It can't be any other number possibly. So the missing number we're going to write down is 4. For this question, as you can see, we can only have 1 possible solution compared to many solutions that we had previously in P1 when no numbers were given to us. So we can add in a step 4. Step 1, 2 and 3 is kept the same. Step 4 is find the missing numbers that you need to get the total. So remember in the previous question we found the missing number 4, so that would be our step 4. I can generate a missing piece of data from a data set for a given mean. Step 1, draw your gaps. Step 2, multiply the mean by the number of gaps. Step 3, find numbers that add to make this total. Step 4, find the missing numbers that you need to make this total. Pause the video here so that you can take a note of this somewhere to refer to this whenever we are doing questions of this type. The mean of 4 numbers is 6. 3 of the numbers are 7, 9 and 3. What is the missing number? We have a mean of 6 and we have got 3 numbers here and we need to find x. Step 1, draw 4 gaps. We can see that we have drawn 4 boxes. It is basically the same thing. Step 2, we multiply the mean by the number of gaps. Remember, the mean here was 6 and the number of gaps here was 4. So we do 4 times 6, which is equal to 24. This means that I want 4 numbers that add to give a total of 24. Step 3, find 3 numbers that add to make this total 24. So remember, we can see 7, 9 and 3 is what we have so far in those 3 boxes. So if I refer back to this, how many numbers am I missing? As you can see, I'm only missing 1 number over here. So we need to do 7 plus 9 plus 3, which equals 19 to see what I have so far. Step 4, find the missing number that you need to make this total. So I've got 19 so far, and remember I want to make a total of 24. So I'm going to do 24 subtract the 19 that I have so far, which is going to give me 5. Finally, remember we need to answer the question, so we need to write down x equals 5, as we were asked to find the letter x. Here's a we do question for you to do. As you can see, there are steps to guide you and support you further. Pause the video here. Here's the solutions. Make sure that you self-assess your work. As you can see here, step 1, we have got our 3 boxes. Step 2, I multiply 5 and 3. 5 times 3 is equal to 15. Step 3, I want a total of 15. Then I need to do 2 plus 6 because I have 2 and 6 so far. And if I add them, I get 8. Step 4, 15 subtracts 8 will give me 7. That means your number equals 7, and therefore x equals 7. Here's a question for you to try. You'll notice that there is no support. If you require support, use previous solutions to guide you. Pause the video here. Here's the solutions. Make sure that you self-assess your work. So as you can see, step 1, we already have the 5 boxes drawn here, so we only need to find x. Step 2, I need to multiply the 5 and the 4. 5 times 4 is equal to 20. Step 3, I want a total of 20. 6 add 2 add 1 add 2 is equal to 11. Step 4, 20 subtract the 11 will give me 9. So that must mean the missing number is 9, and therefore x is equal to 9. And that's the end of P2. And in this video today, we covered both P1 and P2, and that's all we're going to be covering for today. Here's a beat the clock question. So we've got 2 type of questions. One is a P1 question and one is a P2 type of question. The mean of 4 numbers is 10. Find 2 possible answers. So 2 possible answers just means I want 2 different type of solutions. The mean of 6 numbers is 5. 5 of the numbers are 6, 6, 5, 3 and 1. Find the 6th number. So we need to only find the 6th number. So for these type of 2 questions, spend a maximum of 10 minutes and use the help of a timer to help guide you as well. If you've forgotten the steps and you cannot do it from memory, you can use the help of a key information table, and you can go flick back in the questions that we've done together to find them, or you can flick back through your notes when you took a note of this as well. Solutions, make sure that you self-assess your work. So for the first question, you had 4 times 10. 4 times 10 is equal to 40. So both your numbers must sum to 40. Now remember, we're looking for 2 possible answers. So an example that I've written is 10 and 30. You could have easily gotten 20 and 20. And remember, you want 2 different solutions. Second question, you do 6 times 5. That means that all of my numbers must sum to 30. I've got these numbers here so far. The last number has to be 30, subtract the 21, which is the total. Therefore, the last number is equal to 9. And for this question, I can get many solutions. For the last question, I can only get 1 solution to satisfy this. And that's the end of the lesson today.